This is not a war between two armies. This is not a war that abides by the rules of war. This is a genocide. And in genocide, the healthcare system, the children, the civilians are themselves the target. They are not the collateral damage. They are the target because the goal is to destroy the ability of the society to survive.
We interview doctors and nurses from Gaza every week as much as we can, listening to how brave, how articulate, how humane, how committed they are to their patients. These are our heroes, and these are our guiding lights every single day.
Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, whatever time zone you're living in, it's time for Sumud. All about humanity, so this right here for everyone. Uplift, amplify, empower everyone. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, whatever time zone you're living in, it's time for Sumud.
Visit sumudpod.com to subscribe and connect with us on social media.
On this episode of the Sumud podcast, we uplift, empower, and amplify the co-founders of Doctors Against Genocide, Dr. Karameh Hawash-Kuemmerle and Dr. Nidal Jboor. As the world bears witness to the genocide in Gaza, Palestine, Doctors Against Genocide unites healthcare workers worldwide to succeed where governments have failed by confronting genocide, war crimes, and crimes against humanity while safeguarding public health. I am your host, Ed Hasan. Welcome, Dr. Karameh and Dr. Nidal, to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you for having us, Ed.
No, thank you. You all are doing such great work. And if you're okay with it, I would like the audience to hear a little bit about your background, your experiences, and your connection to Palestine. And just so you know, we've done extensive research. And the one thing we couldn't figure out was where Dr. Karameh was born.
I was born in Egypt, in Cairo.
Dr. Karameh, have you visited Palestine?
Of course, I grew up in Palestine and I finished high school there, lived in Nablus for many, many years. My parents were living in Egypt when I was born. They were not able to go back because after 1967, they were displaced and they lost their right to go back home. They became stateless and they did not have any paperwork to allow them to go back to Palestine. But they fought the system and they kept appealing the rules until they got permission to go back. And that's when I went back to live in Nablus, our hometown, where my grandparents lived and my cousins, my extended family.
That's amazing. And Dr. Nidal, how about you?
Yeah, I'm Dr. Nidal Jboor. I'm a Palestinian American. I grew up in Palestine all my life. I went to school there. I finished my high school in a town south of Hebron. It's famous now. It's called Yatta or Masafir Yatta. Actually, I did grow up in Masafir Yatta. At that time, we used to live there. And we used to live in the traditional Arabic tents, Lobet Shar, and in the caves there. And we had sheep and goats. And in the springtime, we would live in the Safir Yatta. In the summertime, we go back to the town Yatta, which is just a few kilometers away. That's south of Hebron. After finishing high school, I got scholarship to study medicine in Jordan. And this is when I met Karameh. So me and Dr. Karameh are schoolmates for medical school in Jordan. So she lived in Nablus. I lived in Yatta, south of Hebron. Then we had medical school together in Jordan. And after medical school, I went back to Palestine. I worked in hospitals in Hebron, Al Ahli Hospital. Then I worked in Maqasid Hospital in East Jerusalem. I did my residency there. Then after that, I decided to come to the United States to finish my training, do more medical training, and I've been here in the States for almost 25 years.
So I got to ask this, who's the better medical student, Dr. Karameh or Dr. Nidal?
I'll tell you, Dr. Jboor, he graduated top of our class in high school. So he was really, an exceptional student.
Let's be honest. None of us chose medicine.
Yeah.
We only did medicine because we had high grades, and that was the classical thing. Our families wanted to do medicine, but medicine was not our first choice or priority. I think we both wanted engineering in Birzeit, but cannot refuse a full scholarship to study medicine in Jordan. It was very tempting, and it is top class. We went there, but we don't regret it now. because now we realize that actually we are better doctors and we really value the real mission of medicine, the true value and true mission of medicine, and we can be more helpful for our people in this type of profession.
So, how did growing up in Palestine or that experience of living there influence you as medical professionals today? If you go back to your childhood and think of the things that you were seeing living under occupation, how did that translate to today?
My father is actually a medical doctor, and he worked at the government hospital in Nablus for decades. He ran the intensive care unit there, and he trained many residents, including myself. I would go in the summer and I work with him. I think we're both very familiar with medicine under occupation. I remember the days where there are curfews and my father would have to leave the house and see patients and go to the hospital in the middle of the curfews. And we were always very scared that something would happen to him because of the soldiers who were swarming the city of Nablus. At that time, having a doctor sign on the car, because we always had a doctor sign on his car, he always had it, appeared to protect the medical doctor. At that time, there was this sense that if you're a doctor or if you're a nurse and you're going to your workplace, that's in the 80s, mid 80s, then you have some immunity because you're doing your work. And as a medical doctor, no one will touch you. So medicine was always difficult. And there was always these checkpoints that would prevent the doctors and the ambulances from going place to place. And sometimes the army would go into the hospitals and do incursions. But, at least we had the impression that there is some respect for the medical facilities. Unfortunately, this has completely disappeared. We have been working with our colleagues in Palestine, in refugee camps, and in the cities. And we started seeing ambulances being bombed and attacked in refugee camps in the West Bank. And that was in 2019, 20, 21, 22. It became that an ambulance is a legitimate target. And sometimes the soldiers would actually go to an ambulance and arrest everybody and take the sick people with them. So we have been seeing how the occupation has become more and more aggressive and more hell-bent on the destruction of the fabric of the Palestinian life, primarily medicine, since that's your question, but not just that. The universities have been attacked, workplaces have been attacked. No home is safe in Palestine. You can be having tea with your family, and all of a sudden, army soldiers come and arrest people and disappear them. And then days will go by and no one will know where they are. Or they would invade refugee camp and assassinate young people without a charge. You wouldn't know why. I worked in Balata refugee camp, and I was very close to one of the healthcare workers who was sniped. And he was killed. He was a healthcare worker. He was a diabetic young man who would go house to house to actually help the community members who have chronic diseases, to give them care, and he was sniped. So our daily life as Palestinians, whether we are medical professionals or whether we are carpenters, housewives, young students, is violated on daily basis. And that was before October 7th.
Yeah. My story also, growing up in Palestine in the West Bank, started in the 80s when we were going to school, elementary school and middle school. So even at that time, early 80s, mid 80s, the occupation was impacting the life of the Palestinians. It was interfering with everyday life. I remember that at our school, the occupation at one point decided that our principal, who was, a great, admired elder from the town. All of a sudden, they decided that he is a security risk and he is not fit to be our principal. And the occupation forces decided to remove him. And they brought us someone who's new, who was collaborating with them. For almost 6 months, all the students in the school refused this, the teachers refused this, the town refused this, and we started protests. That was my early, as a child, experience with protests. They will come to our school, they will throw tear gas, they will terrorize the students inside the school just because we refused for them to remove our principal and we were demanding his reinstatement. It took us a whole year. Imagine being, 7 years old, 10 years old, students in the school, and the army is coming to your school every day, throwing gas and canisters and terrorizing us and shooting us. Plus, as Karam mentioned, just moving from one town to another was always a nightmare. You were always worried what's going to happen. And even when I finished school, we managed to finish school. I mean, Palestinian people are resilient people. We don't just give up because we don't have another choice. Like any person, you will defend your existence, your right to education, your right to health, your right to your land, to your freedom. So as Karam mentioned, I mean, me and few of our friends were like our top class in the West Bank, and we got scholarship to study medicine in Jordan. And in the summertime in Palestine, we, the students, used to go work as laborers with our cousins inside Israel, in Tel Aviv. Whenever we get a chance, we go like for a month or two during the summer to get some pocket money. And after my high school, we went to work in a restaurant in Tel Aviv, and the owner is an Israeli Jew, of course. And my cousins told him that Nidal got top grades in the West Bank, and he got scholarship to study medicine in Jordan. And at that time, I told you I wasn't not even interested in medicine. I was not even interested to study, honestly. And we said, there is no way that this guy can be a doctor or that he's smart enough to be a doctor. That exactly the moment I decided to become a doctor, because I want to disprove his belief, because the dehumanization and the belittling of the Palestinians and their worth and their ability to survive and to do like anyone else is ingrained in the Zionist mind all along for the last 100 years. Again, it did not start last year or the year before. They always have this supremacy feeling that the Palestinians are only good to be their laborers, their servants, but they don't have the right, they don't have the value to govern themselves, to be their own, to achieve. And yes, I did go to Jordan to prove him wrong. That was one of the things that made up my mind because I wasn't sure at that time. I went to Jordan. That was in 87. And we started the first year of medical school. Then the first intifada started, and that broke me really bad because now I felt like I abandoned my family, my friends, my home. At that time, it was not easy. Once you leave the West Bank, you cannot go back for 3 years if you're a male. There was no phones, there was no communication. All what you hear is just on the news. And you feel like all your friends that used to go in protest with them during school, now they are going through this alone. And you don't know what's happening with them. And I heard the news of 2 or 3 of my friends got assassinated. I heard the news that my mother herself got injured when she was trying to defend the youngsters in the town. And that actually put me in a state of depression for almost 2 years. That I was like, first year I was like top student, one of the top students in the class. For 2 years, I barely survived. I barely just managed to pass. Then after that, I want to finish school and go back to Palestine, and I did. Luckily, when I went back to Palestine, it was in 94. At that time, there was the Oslo Accord, and there was some transient hope that things might get better, and we start to feel some easiness, or maybe in the first time of our life that things might change, that the Palestinians can get some sort of freedom, of sovereignty, of being on their own. But unfortunately, this did not last. By the second, third year, as you know, they assassinated their prime minister who was part of that peace process. Then the violence started back again, and all the hope that we have for peace, for equality, for the right to be on our land as sovereign, as free, dissipated. And as you mentioned, when I was working in Palestine, that was between maybe 94 to 99, We as doctors, many days, we were not allowed to go back to hospital, just to go to work. Whenever there is something, they close all the roads. The doctors, the nurses are not allowed to go to their work. And if they're at work, they're not allowed to leave. And we had a lot of colleagues, a lot of friends from Gaza who used to stay months in the hospital because they're not allowed to go back to their families in Gaza. And if the doctors and the nurses were not allowed in, the patients themselves were not allowed. And we know the cases of many people dying at the checkpoints because their ambulances are not allowed in. Many women giving birth at the checkpoints or losing their babies at the checkpoints because of the closures of the checkpoints. And this just made us more and more determined that we need to do everything we can to put an end to this. And we thought that going to the United States, achieve more education, learn to understand the world. How does this world work? Maybe we can contribute something back to our people. In a way, this is kind of like the grounding of why we continue to feel the obligation as Palestinians, as human beings who care about human life, about health, the right to health, the right to freedom, is grounding our work that we do here in the United States and as Doctors Against Genocide.
And when people first see you, obviously they see you on social media and TV and so on and so forth. They don't understand that the advocacy work that you all have done has been many years. It didn't start with Doctors Against Genocide, right? So, Dr. Karameh, for example, I believe you had Health for Palestine pediatric program.
And I still work with Health for Palestine, which is an organization that has the mission of health equity for Palestinian refugees in Palestine. It's very focused on building the capacity of the community from its own. So the training of the healthcare workers who are the sons and the daughters of the refugee camps, and giving them training and giving them tools and giving them support and confidence to be champions in their own community. And this project has been very important for the people in the refugee camps. I grew up in Palestine, in the city of Nablus, and just going to the refugee camps, I learned so much. I learned how all the refugees from Balata are from Yafa. They're all big families that have been displaced from their cities, from their villages. Almost 500 villages have been completely destroyed in what is now Israel. And the people from those villages are now in our refugee camps. Balata has over 35,000 people who live in the refugee camp, and they live in very tight compartments. When I work there, one day I go see patients with community healthcare workers. One day I go see a demolished house that the IDF has bombed. And one day I'm sitting in Beit Aza, which is, you sit with the people who lost one son, two sons, three daughters, just to give them condolences. And that was basically, this is life, is you see a house demolished, you give condolences, and then you wake up the next day to actually do your work as a healthcare worker or as somebody who sells fruits or groceries or whatever. And that's daily life. There is no sense of this is my safe home and this is my refuge. Every refugee camp and every Palestinian city is violated at any moment, at any minute, at any hour, at any day, without warning. And that's our life as Palestinians in the West Bank, and that is not Gaza. When we talk about the West Bank, sometimes we feel embarrassed to talk about the West Bank, knowing that, our people in Gaza are picking their children in pieces. They put the pieces with, flesh and bones in bags, weigh them to figure out if this is a child or this is an adult. Just by virtue of living in Palestine, having family in Palestine, there's nothing more for us to do than being advocates. We don't have an option.
When you say we don't have an option, just for our listeners, unless you're Palestinian, people really don't get, we really don't have an option, right? That's the concept of Sumud, which you talked about, I believe, at the UN panel several months ago.
If you decide to shut your brain and not think about it, you cannot look at yourself in the mirror in the morning. How can you face yourself or talk to people knowing that you're doing nothing to help those who are missing every single human right, especially as a doctor? I mean, when I go to my hospital or my clinic and I see my patients, I don't just treat their headache and their epilepsy. I also ask them about their social situation. What can I do to advocate for them to get the best medical care that they can have? And that includes advocate for them for better school education, for better services. If they are unhoused, I will advocate for them to get a house or to have a better living situation. This is what I do as a medical doctor. If I do that here and I don't do that there, I don't think I deserve respect as a medical professional.
I want to add also that I think these are tropes that Zionism and the Zionist regimes, whether here in the States, in the West, or in Israel, throw at the Palestinians, that the Palestinians never miss an opportunity to miss an opportunity. They are the ones who are always against peace. They are violent people. We want to just make sure that this is all wrong. This is all Hasbara. This is all part of the dehumanization campaign against the Palestinian people. If you really want peace in that region or in the world, you will never have a better friend than the Palestinian people. We always wanted peace from day one, but peace that comes with justice, with respect to our rights as equal human beings, not the peace that they are dreaming of or imposing on us, which is we want to kill you, we want to exterminate you, we want to get you out of your land, we want to keep you under our barrels, but you have to be smiling and you have to be happy and you have to tell us thank you. So, as doctors, part of our mission is to advocate for peace, for solving conflicts peacefully and justly, so things do not escalate to a stage where there is a massive loss of human life. And we know that they have been occupying Palestine for 75 years. The genocide campaign started 100 years ago at the inception of the genocidal Zionist project. It did not start yesterday. We know that Gaza has been under siege for 20 years, and every 2-3 years they do this mowing the lawn campaign of going and killing as many children, as many civilians as possible, terrorizing the people. We just got sick of it. I mean, there must be a solution. And at one point, I think it was 2021, there was another campaign of bombing Gaza in May 2021, and they killed few thousand civilians and children at that time. And after that campaign, we said, I mean, this cannot go on forever. We cannot just be living here and just expecting Israel every 2-3 years to come and kill as many people as they want, then stop for a year or two, then come back again. So we reached out. We thought, as doctors, as human beings who respect human life, there must be people on the other side who maybe agree with us, share this vision that we can have a just peace that's good for both people. I mean, there must be a way that is a win-win. It doesn't need to be a zero-sum game. And me and Karam and a few other colleagues and Palestinian friends, we reached out to a group of Israelis, Jewish Americans, and at that time, actually, that group grew out to become almost 5,000 members. And we were talking with them day and night, 24/7, Facebook, Zooms, meetings. And we told them that we, the Palestinians, we know our people, we grew up there, we know what are their admirations. All what they're asking for is justice, peace, freedom, to be able to live like anyone else. We are not interested in violence. We are not people who are just born to be violent. No, just like anyone else. We have families, we have our children, we have our schools. We want to build our country, build our people, and like anyone else in the world, be safe and free in our country. And we reach out to them, and these were the pro-peace Israelis and Jewish Americans, not the regular, not the average, because the average were against peace from the get-go. But these are the people who were claiming that they are pro-peace and they want a peaceful solution. And after talking to them for almost a year and few months. The final conclusion we reached out is they don't see us as equal human beings. They don't see us as people who are worthy of full rights like anyone else. They only see us as either a demographic threat at best, or a security threat, or at worst, it's better for us not to be there at all. And that actually was the inception of the idea of genocide, that actually these people, even the pro-peace camp, they are not open to any vision or future that we all live together in the same land with peace, with equal rights. It doesn't matter what is the name of the political solution, 2 state, 3 state, 1 state, but just the concept that the Palestinian people are equal people. They have the right to everything like anyone else, and their rights are not conditional on the approval of the Israelis or Israel. Our rights are inherent like anyone else. We don't deserve the right to freedom only if it doesn't pose risk to the Israelis, or only if the Israelis allow this. So the fact that they don't feel this and they agree with the constant dehumanization of the Palestinian people are violent people, their curriculum is wrong. And we kept telling them, when you see any violence from the Palestinian people, it's not from the school, it's not from the curriculum, it's from your soldiers. What do you expect the child that the minute he steps out of school, the soldiers are there shooting them or throwing gas on them, or arresting their dad, or humiliating their mom, or their sick grandfather could not make it to the hospital? How do you expect these people not to react? So if there is any violence that you witness every now and then on the Palestinian side, it's not because they are taught to be this. It's not because they were educated to be this. It is all a reaction to your structural violence, the structural system of oppression, of apartheid, of domination. You cannot expect people, any people in the world. I'm asking the American people here, do you agree? Would you agree to live under occupation all your life? Would you agree for anyone to come and take your house from you, throw you out in the street, and just smile at them or hand them flowers? What would any American or any human being in the world react to these atrocities that we as Palestinians have been living under for decades and decades and decades, and no end in sight? One of the questions that we posted, would you agree that if all violence stops for 5 years, would you agree at that point Palestinians will be able to exercise their right like anyone else, have their independence, have their freedom? And they will say, no, we will never trust you. So what's the solution? What solution do you have? We don't have a solution. And if you continue to do this violence, we're going to commit a third Nakba. That was in 2021. They are threatening that this is their intent as people and as a system. We started reading about the genocide, the history of genocide, and we studied that in a scientific way. As doctors, we always try to see evidence. We always try to see patterns. And the more we read about it, the more we learn about the history of genocide, we start seeing it happening in our sight, being prepared for our people. Our people have been demonized, ghettoized, taken out of their land. Every one of them is considered a terrorist. Every one of them is considered a security threat. The army has liberty to shoot and kill anyone for no reason, or even if they assume any security risk. And this is how the early stages of genocide happens. You demonize a whole people. You start educating your people and indoctrinating your people that this ring of those people are worthless. These are risk to you, to your society. And that's why genocides do not happen with a switch. Usually the society, the whole society is indoctrinated on this hate campaign for years and years and decades. They don't value the equal life of the other. They only see the other as a threat. And that's why when everything else happens, when they get an excuse to do more, they just go and launch it and everyone will be on board. In Israel, everyone has been on board with this genocide the last 2 years. It's not just Netanyahu. It's not just Galan. It's not just the media. It's not just the army. Everyone is Israel is approving of this genocide. Even the Israeli polls, more than 90% approve of what's happening. It did not happen now. It's not just because of October 7. This population, this country, this system has been indoctrinated and already ready to do this. They just needed an excuse. And actually, our organization was started a year before October 7th, because we saw it happening then. And we started actually warning our people. We reached out to the United Nations. We reached out to Francisca Albanese herself. That was August 2023, 2 months before October 7th. And we talked to her, me and Karam and a few friends. Albanese, what is happening is not just an occupation. It's not just an apartheid. There is an imminent genocide happening, especially with the right-wing government in Israel. And we warned her, please raise this alarm. Something dangerous is happening, and we're really worried about our people. There is an existential threat on our people, and we need to raise the alarm. We wrote a panel warning of an imminent genocide. That was July 2023. This was supposed to be part of the United States CPR, Center for Palestinian Rights. And we actually submitted this to them in July, that we are, Doctors Against Genocide, are warning of an imminent genocide happening on our people. We see all the stages, it's high level. And unfortunately, at that time, even our people did not take us seriously. Even our people relegated this very serious threat to, oh, we can give you 10 minutes on a social panel, maybe at lunch or at dinner. We have like many other submissions and stuff like that. And we think they are more priority for taking more space. That actually made us even more angry, because we were not just, doing propaganda. We really studied this in a scientific way, and we have all the evidence for this. And we thought, as doctors, healthcare workers who care about life, the sanctity of life, protection of life, we should interfere early on. And we thought there will be more people who will join us and help prevent this from what's happening, find ways to de-escalate, find solutions. But unfortunately, October 7 happened, and things went into the mass scale slaughter that we have been witnessing live streamed in the last 18 months.
So to be clear, Doctors Against Genocide was started way before October of 2023, correct? I just want to make sure.
As a concept, it was 2 years before October 7. As a group, it was a year before, but we became more official and more prominent after October 7.
We did a lot of readings together, and even Raphael Lemkin, when he was actually warning his people, the Jewish people, before the Holocaust, he would say, you have to do something, you have to move, you have to run away. They're going to come to get you. And his people, his family members would say, oh no, there's no way this will happen. Humanity will not allow it. The state will not allow it. It's impossible. And then he lost all his family members in the Holocaust. Raphael Lemkin, who coined the term genocide, described this. We read it, and we felt almost exactly the same. We felt an impending disaster similar to a Holocaust that will happen, that will engulf our people, because there was no other choice, just like seeing what is happening. And when we read about different genocides, it's a pattern. The language changes, the othering increases, the people become completely dehumanized, and the hate speech goes up and up and up, and it becomes normalized amongst the population. You have to reach a threshold of people who use the same language for a genocide to happen. In Israel, it became very clear. There were those videos where Israelis would say, another Nakba is coming for you. The marches of the flag, where the settlers would go through Jerusalem and threaten the Palestinians, the way they treated the funeral of Shireen Abu Akleh, and how they flipped the coffin in front of everybody, and no one seemed to be bothered by it. It was completely normalized. And everybody would say, yeah, occupation. And we're like, no, it's genocide. Every single incident of these things was, for us, a huge red flag. So it did not come as a surprise to us what happened. We were like, oh shit, it was happening at a small scale, and now it's happening big scale. And everyone who reads the literature about genocides that are happening and is denying what is happening to us as a genocide is just like the Germans in Germany who wanted to do nothing and denied that their country was doing anything, or the Serbian, or the people in Rwanda who were killing each other, but one population felt very empowered that it's okay to kill the other population. So it's the same. You deny it, you insist that it's not, you're not doing anything wrong, but all these children, all these women deserve to die. And I hear it repeatedly, even from doctors.
It's part of the genocide denial.
So you all were calling this out way in advance, and everybody just, I'm going to be more blunt, we ignored you. We didn't listen. That's safe to say? That's
I can actually share with you what Francisca Albanese herself, who's really now, I mean, we really appreciate all
One
her
of our
work
best
now.
advocates.
I have the video. The Zoom. She said, no, I don't think so. I don't know much about the genocide. Maybe I need to study. I mean, I heard few people mention that, but I think we're not at this stage yet. As Dr. Karameh mentioned, our friends will say, you guys are crazy. This is delusional. The world will not allow this to happen in the 21st century with all the social media, with all the cameras, with all the phones. And we told them, I mean, it's happening. It's happening. And one more thing to emphasize the point of, if I ask you go and kill your neighbor, would you kill him?
no.
If Netanyahu asked his army or his people go and kill mass slaughter children, would they listen?
They would listen.
Unless if they are prepared, unless they are already prepared that that other is not a human being, his life is less worthy, he is a threat, and they have been indoctrinating their society for decades and decades about this. People don't just go and follow orders and mass slaughter children because a leader here or a leader there told them to do so. The leader does issue these orders, but the recipients, those are called willing executioners. Willing executioners. They are prepared, they're ready. All what they need is just give them the go. The Israeli army is a citizen army, which means it's a representative of every people in that society. It's not just a voluntary army like here in the United States. Every Israeli serves in the army. Doctors, nurses, engineers, journalists. So they are all prepared to commit these crimes. The society itself is prepared to commit these crimes. It's not just a professional army that is separate from the society. Their army is representative of their society, and their society is approving and prepared to commit this genocide because they have been taught that the other is less equal, their life is not as valuable, and it is better to get rid of them. And when the political environment and the political leader gives that go, they're just ready. They did it. All their media, 90% consensus of more. Yes, this is the right thing to do. All their universities, all their educational systems, all their schools, all their doctors, hundreds and hundreds of Israeli doctors signed a petition to Netanyahu, to the Minister of Defense, bomb all these hospitals, kill them. We approve this. Can you imagine a doctor and healthcare system that approves or even demands the destruction of another hospital where there are patients, where are their doctors, colleagues? And as we know from the international law that healthcare facilities are protected, they are sacred spaces. Anyone who is in those spaces should be protected, even if they were militants. If they are injured and they're going there and receiving treatment, that's actually what the international law says. That even if you are an army, if you're a soldier or a militant, once you are injured, once you are in receiving care in a hospital, stuff like that, your life should be protected. You should not be a target. Because now that is why we are introducing these laws and regulations and Geneva Conventions to protect these spaces. Even in time of war, these places should be protected. The only reason Israel is attacking healthcare, because this is not a war, we also need to clarify this concept. This is not a war between two armies. This is not a war that abides by the rules of war. This is a genocide. And in genocide, the healthcare system, the children, the civilians are themselves the target. They are not the collateral damage. They are the target because the goal is to destroy the ability of the society to survive. The goal is to annihilate the society and destroying their infrastructure, their water supplies, their sanitation, their hospitals, their schools, their universities, killing their educated people and their professionals are by themselves part of the genocidal process because you are destroying the ability of this society to recover even after the end of conflict. Mass slaughter of children and intentional murder of children is by itself a goal because you are damaging the future generation. So none of the things that Israel is doing now is a collateral damage or just indiscriminate. No, it is the target. It's all by design. And that is exactly what they are doing. It was not because, oh, human shields, oh, we cannot figure it out. That is not true. This all propaganda. They brainwashed, unfortunately, the world with the help of the mainstream media of the West that Israel's goal is to destroy Hamas or this and that, while the truth is their goal actually are the civilians, and Hamas is the excuse, not the other way around.
I've never seen it framed this way, where I think you all stated there is a way to predict genocide, right? And I've never heard anybody frame it that way from my research previously. So I appreciate you bringing that forward. And I even think you mentioned, Dr. Karameh, the stages were classification, dehumanization, and persecution. Are there other stages too, or are those the main ones?
The science of genocide or the knowledge of genocide has not been propagated amongst the medical community, even though genocide is most catastrophic public health threat to any society, and it is something that we should really be concerned about. We are in a world where we practice Western medicine, and Western medicine is very much focused on bedside, on innovation to save one patient's life. If that patient has a strong insurance, if that patient is in an area that has strong medical centers that have resources. So, as a medical community, we do not really talk much about the effect of war, the effect of displacement, or the effect of being refugee, or the effect of war crimes or crimes against humanity and genocide on society. However, in the genocide studies and the Holocaust studies, which is an environment that's very much dominated by Holocaust studies, there is a scale for genocide that has been proposed. There is also the stages of genocide that have been proposed by somebody whose name is Gregory Stanton. And these stages, the way they are, they're not like one after another. They can all occur all at once, or they can occur at different times. But there is 10 of them. The worst one is the extermination stage, where the mass murder happens and the full destruction of the society happens. But before that, there is the dehumanization. You call somebody as an insect or vermin, which we have heard from the Israeli officials. And the ghettoization, which is you put people in very small sections and you do not allow them to move freely. This happened during the Holocaust. This is happening to Palestinians in Gaza. Gaza is a big ghetto, if you think about it. Same with the refugee camps. More than 800 checkpoints are erected in the West Bank to prevent people from moving. Villages, full villages, are surrounded by army and people cannot leave. So definitely the ghettoization is happening. Discrimination. You give somebody different status based on their ethnicity or where they come from. In Palestine alone, we're Palestinians. They managed to give us 5 or 6 different status. We are classified according to blue ID, green ID, Gaza ID, refugee ID, UNRWA ID, diaspora ID. We're not the same, although we are one people. So what does that do? That makes me think, oh, I'm better off than the people in Masafer Yatta because, oh, I live in the city, so nothing will happen to me. It's not true. We're all the same. But they managed to classify us because it's easier to justify one step after another of a genocidal process. And then there is the polarization. So you polarize the society. You make one part of the society feel extreme hatred and being threatened extremely by the other. And that's something that we experience in Palestine. Every Israeli who is a settler thinks that they own the water, they own the top of the hills. And the Palestinians who live in their villages for centuries are people who need to be disappeared. And so there are many stages.
For the classification, can you add also that the Palestinians' cards have different plate from the Israeli card, so they can tell who's who? They have separate roads. If a Palestinian commit a crime, an Israeli settler who is his neighbor 100 yards away from them commit the same crime, the Israeli goes to a civilian court while the Palestinian goes to a military court. If an Israeli child commits something, they take him to juvenile court, if at all, while the Palestinian child, a 10-year-old, goes to a military court. Imagine that. So all these types of classifications, the discrimination, persecution, all these stages occur way before the genocide.
I just want to add very important two parts. The preparation. The preparation of the genocide happens usually when there is an incident. So the incident involves the population that is being genocide doing something that can be a hook to escalate things.
So October 7th.
Yeah, and there was other hooks too, you know, like a child throwing a Molotov cocktail. That's a hook to go to the refugee camp.
Do you mind if I add one more thing, please? I'll let you finish. The other hook, remember Hawara, one Palestinian did something violent, okay? And they took this as an excuse, the settlers, to go and burn the whole town. And they came, their defense minister and everyone else, and they said, Hawara and every city that can commit any violence, we're going to burn them all. And this happened, I think, in April or March of 2023, almost 7 months before. They use every excuse to execute. They're pre-planned. Everything with Gaza has been pre-planned for decades. They were talking about this in 1950s and 60s. They did not get an opportunity, or they thought at that time that the international system will not allow it. But all these things that they are committing in Gaza are pre-planned. They have been pre-planned all along.
The last two things is the preparation, and we saw the preparation in West Bank. The preparation is that almost every settler was given arms. So settlers did not used to have weapons. When they first came, they would have like small communities. They didn't have major weapons. And now every single settler child has a Kalashnikov. So the whole population is prepared to commit a genocide because why not? They have it. And most importantly, the denial. So the denial is where the whole population and the allies of the whole population would say, no, that's not happening. It's an upside world. You see people are killed, children being annihilated, and you hear on the news, Hamas broke the ceasefire, or Hamas is doing this, the terrorist this, or the doctor is an operative. All these together, if they all happen together, it's inevitable that a disaster is happening. And that's what we're living. And because we, as medical doctors, are used to predicting diseases, like we see a patient, we get data, we analyze the data, we recognize patterns. For us, this was very clear. It's like a pathology that's happening in front of our eyes. And we're like, okay, do we see this? Yes. Do we see that? Yes. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 points are in front of our eyes. We are trained to diagnose. So for us, this is a clear medical diagnosis. And that's our reason for creating Doctors Against Genocide, because we know that this genocide is creating devastation of the health of the entire population. This should be our business, to learn about it, identify it, diagnose it, and advocate to prevent it, and not pretend that this is none of our business. It is very much the business of every single doctor.
Can I build on this, Karameh, if you don't mind? So this is where we come. When we studied the history of genocide, we learned that genocide has claimed in the 20th century the lives of 250 million human beings. All the wars in the 20th century, including World War I, World War II, claimed the lives of almost 60 million people, while genocides claimed the lives of almost 250 million people. All the epidemics in the 20th century claimed the lives of about 20 to 30 million people. So we as doctors realized that genocide is actually a worse and a more catastrophic public health disaster, worse than epidemics. We go to school, to Western school, which is a colonized type of thinking. They don't teach us in the Western schools because no Western country went through genocide since World War II. the genocide became just the business of the global south and the brown people. And because of this, it doesn't deserve to be taught in medical schools. But if genocide is claiming more lives than anything else, why don't we learn this in medical school? Why don't we learn to predict the signs and symptoms of early genocide so we can prevent this from happening? Because in medicine, we learn also that prevention is key. We can save way more lives by preventing an epidemic or a catastrophe or a genocide rather than just waiting for things to happen, then react to it. So part of the concept of Doctors Against Genocide is that we want to mobilize the medical community and the medical education and medical school, and we want to add this in the curriculum that healthcare workers and doctors should be taught the skills and the knowledge to protect early signs of genocide, and they should use their leverage, their weight, and their public presence to pressure politicians to solve conflicts early, to stop hate campaigns, because if this is allowed to go on, we will go to higher and higher stages of these crimes where the loss of life becomes much bigger and unavoidable. So we diagnose genocide as an illness, as a societal illness, a pathology in a society that become indoctrinated on hate, and everyone of that society is a willing executioner to commit this, and this should be treated as a medical illness, and it also imposes a huge public threat on the victims. That is also part of our job as doctors who go to school to protect life, the sanctity of life. If we want to protect more lives, we can advocate to solve conflicts early on before the mass murder starts. This way we can be more effective as doctors, not as politicians, as doctors. If our goal is to protect life, that's why we have to stop these things, protect them, and advocate for them before they happen. So the genocide that happened is avoidable. Every genocide is avoidable if there is a will, if there is knowledge, if the medical community and the public know more about these problems and predict them early on to stop them. None of this is a natural disaster. What is happening now is not a natural disaster. Even natural disasters now, I mean, there is a science that you can predict them, but maybe that science is maybe harder to get in certain disasters. But the pathology of the genocide that impacts societies, it's very easy to learn. It's very predictable. You can predict it with a surgical precision that if no intervention is taken, that this will lead to a genocide at one point. And we think that it is our moral obligation as doctors, healthcare workers, to take this on, learn our community, mobilize our community, and educate the public about these things so we can save more lives.
And I think that's a great segue. Dr. Karameh, I believe you've written about this, developing strategies dealing with a settler colonial context, just generally speaking within the medical industry. Can you unpack that a little bit?
Well, I mean, we have written together and we have spoken together about a lot of things with settler colonialism, because the settler colonialist will come with the intention of exploitation of the resources. A settler colonialist is not a regular refugee. Is not somebody who comes seeking safety, seeking shelter, seeking integration with the society that they reach. It is an individual or it's a group that is coming with the intention of exploitation. And because exploitation will be always met with resistance, there has to be force. And that force will be directed towards the indigenous people or the people who live in the land. And usually they are weaker, they have less resources, and they have almost always no army. And the mentality is to expand and to continue to exploit and not to find common grounds with the population that is already there. So settler colonialism is a health threat, and we do have a problem with it. And I think Nidal can speak to that even more than I do because he really thinks about that a lot. But even the term settler colonialism is a term that kind of does not have legal ramification. is not recognized by the international community or the international laws as a practice that deserves prevention or deserves that the perpetrators are held accountable. So a lot of the studies about Palestine are settler colonialism studies. However, this also delays the urgency of action because we're talking about settler colonialism. So what? We're not going to do anything about it. But now, recently, more of our colleagues are looking into the settler colonialism framework as a genocidal framework, which is what we actually think is. Because if you go there, exploit people, find them as a threat, you classify them, you polarize against them, you other them, and you create systems that deprive them of their human rights, they will resist you. And that would be the trigger for more annihilation. So settler colonialism as a way of genocide is what we actually advocate for, to be recognized as such. Nidal, do you have anything to add on this?
Yeah, well, I do have a problem with this term. I mean, I don't think this term is accurate. I don't think it's complete. And I'm not a fan of the term settler colonialism unless you finish the sentence. Settler colonialism genocide. There has never been a settler colonialism project in history that did not include genocide. Genocide is part and parcel of the project. In the United States, it was settler colonialism genocide. It was a genocide upon the natives. In Canada, in Australia, in New Zealand, there was always a genocide part of the project. The genocide can be almost complete, like the United States. It can be partial, like in other places. But I think for some reason that term genocide was taken out to sanitize the concept. And when you say settler, like if you talk to an American person and say settler, oh, that's nice, like us. That is a good thing. That's a positive thing. Oh, that's actually, if he's religious, he will say, oh, settler, because that is a religious duty, or you go and settle and you're the good person, and the other person is the savage or the inferior, is a perpetrator of genocide. So, in a way, I think many of the educational or academic institutions use this because this is what they thought they can get through in the Western academia, settler colonialism, as Karameh mentioned, does not have any legal implication, does not have any legal definition. It's not considered crime. And if you think, many Americans will tell you, wow, America is a great, successful project. So if that is what settler colonialism entails, then settler colonialism, in a way, can be a positive thing. Hire humans, one, and they created all this culture, all this civilization, all this industry. So in a way, it might be seen in a positive light, but they ignore, I think, intentionally, the genocide part. If it was just settler, people are just moving to a place and building it or being nice to the people there, working together and stuff like that, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I mean, the Jews were coming to Palestine and Palestinians were accepting them as neighbors and as co-workers, and there was no problem with that. The problem with that is when so-called settlers, not a settler, is an invader, okay, comes to your land, not as us. We come to immigrate to the United States. We become citizens. We work with the American people. We do not claim, oh, the United States is our country now, and we want to rule over you. We, the one who are coming, we want to rule over you. And if you don't like it, we're going to either kill you or exterminate you or get rid of you. That is where the problem is. So it's not just a regular settler, and it's not just going to the promised land. No one promised the land to the Americans who came and exterminated the natives. And no one promised the land to the Ukrainians and the Russian Jews or the German Jews to go to Palestine and exterminate the natives. You can say settler colonialism, but I would rather say it is a genocidal campaign against the native people wherever they are.
So, a question for both of you. When you read the Hippocratic Oath, was there a disclaimer in there except for Palestinians?
Never for us.
Actually, the first day we started our work after October 7, when we went public, we created our own oath and pledge. And we think we are still finalizing it. And many other groups, colleagues, the medical institutions are creating a new medical oath called the Gaza Medical Oath, because we think that the doctors and the healthcare workers in Gaza are the only ones who are really living up to their oath at the expense of sacrificing their own lives rather than abandon their mission and their patients and their hospitals. And we know many of them end up paying the full sacrifice of losing their lives, like Dr. Allah and many, many other doctors. I don't recall all the names now. And many of them have been detained and tortured, and they're still being tortured. More than 400 colleagues are still being tortured in Israel because they refuse to break their oath to their profession, to their people. They refuse to abandon their people, despite many of them have been given the option to leave. And they said, we will not leave. And if we leave, who is going to take care of our people, of our patients? We did not go to school for 14 years to abandon our patients. Me and Karameh and our colleagues, the Doctors Against Genocide, are answering them back. We did not go to school for 14 years to stay silent on a genocide. And we promise our colleagues who are the role models of medicine in the world, who are the heroes of medicine, that the world is going to learn medicine going forward through the eyes, through the hearts, through the minds of Gaza healthcare workers, Gaza doctors, paramedics, nurses, pharmacists, who are sacrificing everything in their life, not to abandon their oath and their sacred mission and their humanity. Those are the ones who are our role models, our champions, not the medical healthcare organizations, not the medical system that is favoring profit over life, that only cares about making more money, exploiting the patients, that is leaving the poor without coverage, that is lobbying to DC using billions of dollars only to increase their profit margin. They never lobbied or advocated for life, for the protection of life. They never advocated for the poor. They never advocated for the homeless. They never advocated for those children, the 20,000 children who have been mass murdered with our tax money and our weapons. We did not hear a single medical health organization or medical organization or university or medical school say this is wrong. We could not even get a statement from them to demand ceasefire, which should be the bare minimum, regardless of your politics, regardless of which side you are on, regardless of who's right and who's wrong, regardless of who is good and who's bad, regardless of who started this and who started that. As doctors, as healthcare workers, the bare minimum is to say, stop the killing, stop the murder, stop bombing hospitals, stop killing children, not another child, not another hospital. Any doctor, any healthcare organization that fails to say this as bare minimum already failed their humanity, they failed their profession, they failed their oath, and should not be practicing medicine anymore. These are business people. These are not real doctors. And most of them are using the excuses of medical neutrality and everything else to be on the side of the perpetrator. Because neutrality in the face of mass murder of children and civilians and complete disregard of human life is complicity, is siding with the perpetrator, siding with the aggressor, and leaving the victim alone, unprotected, unadvocated for. All our institutions in this country, including, of course, our universities and American Medical Association and Columbia and Harvard, all these Ivy Leagues that we have been brainwashed all our life to look up to them. We are looking down to them now because they are all complicit in the genocide, even silencing the students and the doctors and the few people who are trying to raise the alarm and say, enough is enough, let's stop the mass murder. And they even denying us this right to speak up, to expose the genocide, to practice our free speech and First Amendment right to expose the truth.
Talk about Doctors Against Genocide a little bit more. Your motto has been never again for anyone. And I think what's most fascinating is people will say, oh, well, that's just a Palestinian group that's ensuring that there's no genocide in Palestine. That's actually not true. You mean no genocide for anyone, anywhere, ever.
Yes, we do. Just like we suffered, and by our own experience, we have discovered how it's possible to predict a genocide. We want to make it the business of everyone. so that we are able to do this repeatedly in any conflict that is arising. One of the things that we also focus on in our organization is that we focus on the community that is affected, and we want the community that is affected to lead the way. We do not want white saviorism or Arab saviorism or Palestinian saviorism or anything like that. So if we are talking about people from Sudan, we want the Sudanese to lead the way in telling the others how to advocate for the safety of their children and the safety of their communities. We do not want to manufacture solutions that will benefit possibly the perpetrators or possibly people who do not even understand what is happening and who are seeking alternative benefits from doing something. We Palestinians, we want to be able to advocate for our own people in our own way. If we work with the Sudanese, we want the Sudanese to do it. If we work with the people of Congo, we want the people of Congo to do it. We will be fully in support of them, and we will do everything in our power to support the communities, but we will not take the lead on designing the advocacy efforts or designing the solution. The reason why we insist on this is because we have suffered so much from our voices being taken away from us and our narrative to be twisted around to benefit this party or that party. So many different parties have interfered with how we fight for our sovereignty and our self-determination. And we think it is very wrong. We think we should have our voices to be centered.
If I want to just add to this, please. So, yes, I agree. We are both Palestinians, and we cannot deny that we have been overwhelmed by the genocide that's been happening to our people, live streamed for the last 18 months, and it has been taking a lot of our time. I wish it was not happening, and in that case, we would have more time to focus on other conflicts and other genocides in the world. But with all what the world has been seeing, it is taking too much a toll on us, and we are all sick from this genocide on the personal level. Our families, our people are being exterminated in front of our eyes, and we do not apologize for being very vocal and very focused and very strong advocating against this genocide. At the same time, our organization is grounded in humanity. We advocate for life, regardless of ethnicity, regardless of color, nationality, and we want the medical community all over the world to be part of this, to advocate for humanity against injustice, apartheid, occupation, genocide, war crimes in Africa, in Rohingya, in South America. We are also seeing some early risk factors of genocide here on American soil against the migrants, against the LGBT community, against the transgenders, against the African American community. All these communities are at risk of genocide at some point. Actually, many of them are already staged 4 or 5 of genocide. There is the discrimination, there is the persecution, there is the ghettoization, there is the dehumanization, especially with this administration against the migrants. I mean, the migrants are being portrayed in the media as dangerous, as criminals, as drug traders and stuff like that. This is part of the dehumanization campaign. This is how you prepare the people to get rid of this community and put their community at risk. The same is being done to the LGBT community, to the transgender community, the African American community that went through slavery genocide. It's not just slavery. At that time, there was no genocide. The term genocide was not there 200, 300 years ago. It was only coined in 1940s. But if you think about it, slavery was a genocidal process. So it was a slavery genocide, and that project continues until now. The African American community is still disenfranchised, is still vulnerable, it's still weak, it's still ghettoized. And if you get a president who's a little bit maybe more racist than what we have now, I wouldn't be surprised that the African American children are being killed in our streets by the police and so many other people every day. With the suitable political environment and more maybe right-wing extremism, I wouldn't be surprised that the African community will itself experience higher stages of genocide. So we are champions for life. We advocate for life, every life, whether it's here, whether it's South America, whether it's in Palestine, whether anywhere else in the world, we are calling our colleagues all over the world to join. And as Karameh mentioned, we don't want to speak on behalf of the Congolese people because we hear about it in the news, but we do not claim that we know all the facts. Like now, if you want to hear about Palestine from the mainstream media, you will think the Palestinians are the aggressors, not the victims. And we don't want to fall in the same trap and hear about what's happening in Congo and go and talk on behalf of them. We want them, the natives, the holders of their truth, to speak their truth. We are reaching out. We did talk with a few of them. We talked to Sudanese colleagues and we invited them to speak, and we did speak with them many times, with Rohingya colleagues, but we want them to speak their truth. We don't want to practice, as Kamal mentioned, white secularism or Arab secularism or anything else on those people. And we think that this is harmful to these communities. The community itself is the one who owns its own truth, and they are the ones who should be centered in a discussion. With all our support, they should be the center.
Yeah, that's powerful. That's both powerful and brilliant. And obviously, that is the right approach. I do want to talk a little bit about your approach. I don't think I've seen an organization of doctors, if you will, do this before, but your primary tools are public statements, demonstrations, pressure campaigns, education, rather than, say, delivering medical supplies. So it seems like you all have come up with education and advocacy as the ultimate remedy. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
By design.
I mean, we of course think that supporting the communities that are at risk with medical aid and medical expertise is extremely important, and we do that as well. But I think the gap that Doctors Against Genocide is filling is the advocacy. One thing that I want to tell you is that our membership is extremely diverse, very, very diverse. So it's not like one race or one language or one country. The doctors and the nurses and the health advocates, even the veterinary medicine specialists who are joining us, are from all over the world, from every faith, with every language, from every color. So I think the gap that is being filled by all these medical professionals who feel that their oath is obligating them to do more than just going to the medical office, seeing one patient every half an hour, and going home and enjoying a very privileged life while not thinking of others who are suffering extreme devastation. I cannot tell you how impressive our membership is.
Your board too, correct? Your board is pretty diverse as well.
Yes, yes. The medical professionals who join us are just incredible people. They are brave, they are brilliant, they are very humane, and they will do anything to save people. And these are the medical professionals that any one of us should have as their doctors and as nurses. And I think we're so proud of our memberships. And the more we get to meet them in person, the more we are in awe of these people. Actually, very few of our members are Palestinians. Most of them are not Palestinians. And they're just incredible human beings. They're amazing. And I think they will lead the medical profession into a more just, more humane direction that will save us all.
But I think you're also motivating and encouraging other organizations to be creative, if you will. I think I read Lawyers Against Genocide or Attorneys Against Genocide or something like that. Yeah. I mean, we're going to see a really big shift in the approach in which a lot of this advocacy work is done across industries.
If I want to just add to this, me and Karameh, we've been together working on this, brainstorming what else can we do since medical school. So 10 years ago, I was always against humanitarian aid organizations because I felt at that time that these organizations, while their role is crucial, they're providing what we call humanitarian band-aids or aid wash. They are providing some help and some supplies to these vulnerable communities all over the world without checking in the root causes of why these communities are needing your help. And they're practicing the white saviorism or the aid wash mechanism because the global health system and the humanitarian aid system is also a colonized system, like the medical school education system, too. It only allows the Westerner to feel, look, I'm providing aid, I'm the nice guy, while my country is sending the bombs to kill you, while my country is occupying you, while my country is exploiting your resources, but there are good ones of us who are coming here to give you some aid here and there. And once we finish, we leave you at the same structure and injustice, and you will always be dependent on our aid. And we are not going to do anything to solve the root cause of these conflicts. So we allow you to become and to manage on your own without the reliance on our aid. So that is a system called aid wash and humanitarian aid dependence. And the whole concept of global health has been built on this, and the West is happy about it. And we figured out early on that while this is important, of course, I mean, these victims or these communities are vulnerable, they do need help, they do need aid, but you don't stop at this. If you stop at this, you betrayed them, you failed them, because many times Gaza or Palestine have went through these attacks, and all these organizations will go there and will send aid only to be bombed again after a year or two. None of them went the extra step to say, okay, we gave you aid for this time, things are kind of stable now, what can we do to prevent this from happening? What can we do to end occupation? What can we do to end the apartheid in Africa and Congo? What can we do to end this exploitation of your resources, your country, in Sudan, in Rohingya? So if you only do just half the job, just to make you feel good about yourself that you're doing something, then leave the communities alone after that, at the mercy of the same oppressive regime that committed the crime early on. If you accept yourself as a humanitarian organization to send aid to Gaza, and agreeing that your aid will not get in until Israel, the perpetrator, approves this aid, you failed the Palestinian people. So I am not really happy about the UN or any aid organization that's sending aid to Gaza and Palestine. It should be preconditioned that this aid should go in despite the approval of the aggressor, because Israel is the one who controls the genocide and the destruction, and also is the one that is controlling the aid. The Palestinians become double victims for the bombs, and double victims because even their bread now is at the mercy of the aggressor that's committing the crimes against them. That's why Doctors Against Genocide came to break this system. The United Nations, all the aid organizations in the world should not agree to send aid to Gaza or anywhere else in the world only with the approval of the aggressor. Because in this case, as we know, in the last 25 days, does not allow anything in. You know why? We allowed it. We allowed it. We should not have allowed this from the beginning. The international system should be very strong and enforce safe passages, enforce the end of this genocide, invoke the genocide conviction to force Israel to end this, to send peacekeeping forces to force the aid in, not to keep Israel controlling everything from both sides. Go ahead, Karam.
Yeah, I just wanted to give an example. You know, the medical community tends to be extremely passive when it comes to advocacy. Advocacy is almost viewed as something that we should not do.
They're not passive when it comes to money, how much money or how much profit they make.
Advocacy for patients is like, you don't do it. But I'll give you an example. I was invited as a pediatric neurologist, as a pediatrician, to contribute to writing a pamphlet that can be used by the United Nations for caregivers of children who suffered war, who have been suffering from war. And there was many people from Haiti, Congo, Rwanda, South America, big group of contributors. And, you know, it was good. That's something that I feel good about doing. I was asked to sign a disclaimer that I will not talk about politics, international law, or touch on any sensitive topics. So I sent an answer. If I cannot advocate on the side of the children and elevate their voice and seek justice for them and call out the perpetrators who are committing the crimes against them, how would these children view me? How dare I teach them how to be resilient when I'm not even advocating for the harm that's being done on them to end? What is this disclaimer? What are you asking me to do? And I refused to participate. And there was a debate, and they talked like, she has a point, she does not have a point, she has a point, she does not have the point. At the end, they said, we're sorry, we cannot have you since you did not sign that disclaimer. And this is what we want to change. Exactly that. Because whatever they do with that pamphlet is going to be such a superficial device that does not even address the surface of the suffering of the people. That's the normal practice in almost every single thing about global health.
Clearly, neither of you or your whole organization, you're following the rules somewhat, I'll say. So the Sick from Genocide campaign, I think, Dr. Karameh, you called out sick. I believe there were emails sent and a lot of people criticized that. I think the other one was not another child, not another hospital. I believe both of you have been attacked and criticized for that as well. How are you handling this criticism and these attacks within your profession?
I feel that it's just like Nidal always says, when we do this, we are practicing medicine. This is the medicine that we should all be practicing. And I do not deviate from that. I care about my job. I care about my patients. I care about my duty to my colleagues. I care about how to work within my workplace in a very respectful and professional way. And I will never let my duties to my patients suffer because of advocacy. At the same time, I have to advocate for all children. I will not leave any child behind. So if you think that's a message that needs to be suppressed, you have to look me in the eyes and tell me that I cannot advocate for children who are being bombed every day in shelters and who are deprived of food and who are starved, and I should shut up because that makes the perpetrators uncomfortable. It's just not gonna work.
I can add to this. We don't feel that we are doing anything wrong or committing any crime by advocating for a ceasefire and the end of killing. We don't think, as doctors, it's outside our job and our oath when we advocate for the life of children, the life of the civilians, the mothers, the grandmothers. We don't think we're doing anything wrong and that deserves punishment when we say, do not bomb hospitals, do not bomb our colleagues and doctors and nurses while they are operating on the injured and the victim and the vulnerable. And we think this is part of why we went to school. We went to school for protection of life. We swore an oath to protect life, and we are exercising our right to practice our profession. And we are insisting on keeping our promise and our oath, our patience, and to humanity in general. And we don't think any part of this should be punishable. We don't think any part of this is wrong. Of course, with the current environment, the genocide enablers and people who are complicit in the genocide don't agree with this. And they did go against many of our colleagues. Many of them lost their jobs. Many of them got silenced. Many of them got threatened. But that is not because our colleagues did something wrong. It's because those systems of oppression that are enabling the genocide are not happy when they are challenged. They are not happy when people tell them you are wrong. You are part of a crime that should stop. So, if anything, it is the ones who are silent who should worry because they betrayed themselves, they betrayed their profession, they betrayed their humanity. If anything, it is the administration that are sending billions and billions of bombs to mass murder children. They are the one who should be worried. They are the one who should be scared. We have nothing to worry about. We have nothing to be scared. As Karama mentioned, we are not looking for trouble. We don't want to lose our jobs. We value humanity. We value life. We want peace. The highest demand any pro-Palestinian advocate in the last 18 months asked for is ceasefire. How is this a crime? How is this a crime? Whether it's a student or a healthcare worker, all what we're asking is for peace. When did advocacy for peace become a crime? This is my question and our answer to those people who are challenging us.
So I'm going to allow, hopefully, both of you, if you're open to just giving final words, but I got to ask Dr. Karameh this question. And I know your institution very well. So you're a woman that has its own barriers. You're a Palestinian woman that has a whole other level of barriers, and now you're speaking against genocide. Do you realize the power and the inspiration that you are giving so many young boys and girls of you being in that position within academia?
I think it's a privilege for me to be able to speak up. And I think it's a privilege for me to have a voice and to use my voice. I was asked not to speak in the name of my institution or the name of my hospital, which is a basic procedure. I think that my institution and my hospital should be on the right side of history, and they have not shown a sign of that. As Nidal said, I think we are advocating for humanity. We're not advocating for more weapons. We're not advocating for more killings. We're not advocating for demolition of hospitals. We're not advocating for doctors and nurses to be detained and killed. We are actually advocating for all the children and their families and their societies to have their full human rights and be able to pursue happiness, just like the Americans here. Health is a human right. If we are not able to advocate for health as a human right, how can we be doctors?
So that's a humble answer, and I respect that, but I'm calling it here. I think we're going to see Dr. Karameh in a book in about 30 years of inspiring future women. So I'm going to say for you,
Yes.
Dr. Nidal, for you as well.
Before you come to me, I want to add that
Yeah.
I'm very proud of Karama. We know the situation she's in. We know how risky. We know that this institution, like all the other institutions, are totally biased on the wrong side of history and totally biased against the nobility and the advocacy for life, for justice that Dr. Karama is advocating for. I can say all these things easily because I'm independent, I'm on my own, but for her, it's a whole ball game. And we are really proud how brave she is. We're really proud of her integrity. We are really proud that despite all of this, despite the complicity and the silence of the majority of her colleagues and the institution there, she continued to stay strong and stay proud and not shy away. As you said, I think this book should come right now, not after 30 years. She deserves it. Well earned. As
Well,
Palestinians, we are proud of you, and our colleagues, we are proud of you.
I got to tell you, those Nablus people, they're tough.
Yes, they call it Jabal. It's not for no reason that they called it this way.
And for you, Dr. Nidal, briefly, I can't remember what the situation was, but even from my kids, when they saw you, I think it was on social media, perhaps, but they said, I want to work with him. I want to work with Doctors Against Genocide. And my kids, my youngest are 8 years old, twins, just to kind of give you the
Mashallah.
understanding. So you are really, really making a difference and really
Wow.
setting up the next generation.
Thank you. Thank you. We'll be honored to have them. Yes. Yes. I have been saying this more lately, unfortunately, that I don't think most of what we're doing now is going to fix it for us. I think they ruined our life for good and forever after witnessing our people being slaughtered for 2 years. And whatever happens, we're never going to be the same. We're never going to heal or recover from this as normal human beings. But it is our obligation to humanity and to our children and to the future generation that what the Palestinian people went through will never happen to anyone else in the world. And that is the message and the premise of Doctors Against Genocide. We are not doing it for ourselves as individuals because, unfortunately, it's maybe too late for us. The same thing that happened after every genocide, after the Holocaust. Lemkin did not live to see the fruits of all his work when he advocated for his people and against genocide. And when we say never again, and now the premise of Dr. Genocide, never again for everyone, we want this to mean something, and we want this to become the new normal. Never again should be for everyone, not just for the few. And inshallah, with all your help and all the support of our colleagues and the people in the world, we should make this the new normal. And the world should not witness any more genocides after what happened in Gaza. And we don't want the sacrifice of the people in Gaza, our colleagues, the children, the women, to go in vain. And the best way to honor their sacrifice, their loss, is to make the lesson out of this crime something that will protect humanity all over the world.
Our guiding lights are our colleagues in Gaza. Dr. Borsh, Dr. Lo, Dr. Abu Safiya. These are the ones who deserve the book and deserves the volumes of books to speak about their bravery, their steadfastness. We interview doctors and nurses from Gaza every week as much as we can, and just listening to them and listening to how brave, how articulate, how humane, how committed they are to their patients and to their work dwarfs us all. There is nothing that we can do that is equal to what they have been through or what they are doing every single day. And that goes for the mothers of Gaza. It goes for the children of Gaza. It goes for the journalists, the young journalists of Gaza who are being targeted one after another because they are speaking their truths. These are our heroes, and these are our guiding lights every single day.
Absolutely. And on that powerful note, for our listeners, how do we support you all in the work that you're doing? I saw that you have some gear coming out now, some shirts or something like that. So, what other ways can we support you?
We have a calendar that is made in the honor of the Gaza doctors. It is very special to us, to a lot of the people who worked on it, because it is the blood of our people, the pain of our people, the bravery of our people, the story of our people. Every single image is a catalog of suffering and bravery mixed together. And that is a calendar for 2025. Please check it out because a lot of pain is in that calendar and a lot of hope as well. And you take it, Nidal.
Yes, thank you. I want to add also that the best way to support us, we're calling out all our colleagues in the healthcare industry in the United States, in the West, all over the world. The best way to support us, please, is to join us, join our mission. Together, we can create a better world and a better humanity for all of us and for our children. We all went to school to protect life, to protect humanity. We all swore an oath, and we need to live up to our oath. We are not asking you to become politicians. We are not asking you to be political. We are asking you to practice medicine to protect life. And that includes advocating for life, demanding ceasefire, demanding the end of wars, demanding the peaceful resolution of conflicts. That includes protecting children all over the world, protecting hospitals, protecting healthcare workers. That includes that we as doctors and healthcare workers are the champions and the lawyers of the poor, of the weak, of the sick, all over the world. We are not in this for money. Medicine is not a business. In the West, we are lucky that medicine does make enough money, and I think most doctors, healthcare workers have enough money. But that should not be the real goal or the only goal of medicine. Please, the more you do to advocate for humanity, the better you'll feel about yourself, the better doctor and healthcare worker you will be, the better you can sleep at night with a clear conscience that you tried everything you can to help those who have no voice, those who are vulnerable and have no help. And you can do this beyond the bounds of your bedside practice and outside the doors of your hospital. This is a universal message for all of you. We all see what is happening to the world. We all see the exploitative systems that have been deployed against all of us, the bleak future that the very few wealthy and hyper wealthy people out there are drawing for us and planning for us. It is an obligation on all of us, each one of us, to do something to change this. And the best way to support us is please to join us, and we will support you. And don't worry, there is no risk. You are only practicing medicine. Ceasefire is a medicine. Stopping wars saves more lives than any medicine we can invent. Stopping the genocide will save more lives than sending 1,000 medical missions. Stopping war, ending conflicts, ending hate is a vaccine. It saves more lives than all what we can do for decades in our clinics and our hospitals, ending wars, ending conflicts, and respecting the life of every one of us, whether here or all over the world. And thank you, Ed, for giving us the opportunity. Thank you for being Palestinian. We're proud of you. We have voices, we have tongues, we have brains. We can speak for ourselves. Of course, we appreciate all our supporters, all the people of good conscience all over the world, and we appreciate their support. We are grateful forever for that. But please make sure you listen to the Palestinian truth from the Palestinian people themselves, especially those on the ground in Gaza, in Jenin, in Tulkarm, in the West Bank, in 48, everywhere, and in their camps all over the world.
So, really quick, where can we get these calendars?
www.doctorsagainstgenocide.org.
What I would like to do from the podcast is we'll purchase 100 of the calendars, and then you can donate them as you wish to whomever that's okay with you.
Thank you.
We go to DC every month and we take dozens and dozens of calendars with us every time. We pass it to the people we meet there, to the staffers, to the colleagues. The name of the calendar is 1 Year of Genocide, and it's to honor the memory of our colleagues in Gaza who refused to abandon their profession and their moral obligation to protect life.
Thank you both. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Ed.
Thank you.
Listen, stay tuned, cause it's time for some mood.